On. Hello. हाँ sure. ठीक है. Welcome back to the current affairs series, the lectures we have been doing on the current affairs section for UPSC, UPPCS, MPPCS and all the state exams as well and other exams as well. Moreover, these are the issues that are very important from the point of view of the understanding of the issues that the country currently faces, right? So it becomes very important to develop an understanding as to what are the issues and what are the complexities in those issues that we are facing right now, and how are they important from the exam point of view, and how the questions can be framed in the exam. Okay, the prelims is very close, so our focus will be on prelims. Primary focus will be on prelims, and a secondary focus, as you can say, will be on the main section. So Digital India Land Record Modernization Program and ULPN scheme. This scheme was recently launched, ULPIN. This was recently launched in 10 states. Sorry. This scheme is one of the components of this DILRMP scheme, that is Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. This scheme is a part of this one. So we will be dealing with this scheme and this as well. So why in news? Because unique land parcel identification number scheme has been launched across 10 states in India, and it is a part of DILRMP, Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. Okay, what is ULPIN? Under the scheme, a 14-digit number like our Aadhaar code that will be allotted to all the identified land parcels of the country. Okay, already the land record digitalization is going on. The main scheme of digitalization of land records was launched in 2008. Since then, it has been going on in all the states. Now, land records and maintenance of land records, the maintenance of revenue from the land comes under the state list, under the 23rd section of state list. ठीक है, तो 7th शेड्यूल में सारी लिस्ट्स प्रोवाइडेड है. यहाँ पे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ पावर्स बेसिकली मेंशन्ड है सेंटर और स्टेट के बीच में. ठीक है, तो ULPIN scheme, now that the land record have been digitized and the owners are being identified for the land records, so now those owners will be provided with ULPIN number. It will be a 14-digit code like our Aadhaar code, very similar to that. But that 14-digit will include the longitude and latitude of the land parcel that has been identified. Okay, that will be based on the longitude and latitude of the land parcel that has been identified. So why has this need come for the modernization or digitalization of the land records in country? First of all, the land records in India are very poorly managed. The prime reason is the distribution of or the spread of the land records in the various departments within the state governments. क्योंकि state governments के अंडर में लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स का मेंटेनेंस आता है, तो क्योंकि सेक्शन 23 ऑफ कोर्स ऑफ द स्टेट लिस्ट. यहाँ पे दो इश्यूज क्रिएट होते हैं. द फर्स्ट वन इज कि लैंड रिकॉर्ड मेंटेनेंस डिपार्टमेंट्स के अक्रॉस स्प्रेड है फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, एंड द सेकंड वन इज देयर इज नो यूनिफॉर्म criteria or there is a lack of uniformity in the laws regarding to the transaction or related to land. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल यूपी में लैंड रिलेटेड लॉ, लैंड रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए कुछ और लॉज हैं, बिहार में कुछ और लॉज हैं, रेवेन्यू एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ जो लैंड है उसके लिए कुछ और लॉज हैं दोनों स्टेट्स में। तो इसके लिए इसकी वजह से दिक्कत क्या हुई? दिक्कत बहुत सारी अराइज होती हैं व्हेन द development of land and the development of cities and the expansion of urban areas or the development of infrastructure like roads, bridges, canals is done. Because for example, national highway is to be made that is passing through two, three states. In that case, the acquisition of land becomes cumbersome process because of the different kind of the first one is the different kind of land records that the states maintain, and the second one is because of the absence or the spread of the records, due to which no single point access for acquisition of land and compensation is not available. अब ओके तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है कि लैंड ओनरशिप इन इंडिया इज डिटरमाइंड बाय सेल डीड्स एंड इट डज नॉट प्रोवाइड ओनरशिप, ठीक है। तो व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ सेल डीड? सेल डीड का मीनिंग क्या है? इंडिया में जो लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन किए जाते हैं या मैनेज किए जाते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ वन सेज दैट ही ओन्स अ लैंड, तो हाउ कैन ही प्रूव दैट ही ओन्स अ लैंड? He can prove it through three documents primarily. The first one is the document of registration, okay, registration. The second one is property tax. If I own a land, I would have paid property tax on that, okay. And the third one is cadastral map, okay, cadastral map. Fine. So the registrar of the government, okay, a registrar or the department of registration will be holding the information regarding the registration of the land parcel. Fine. The second one is property tax, that will be the revenue department, and the third one is cadastral map, that will be having with the survey department, okay, survey department. So you can see that the information regarding one land parcel is spread across three departments, due to which unification of the criteria for identification of a land parcel are not at one single point, and that creates problems. That creates problems in the sense that there are anomalies in the records. Fine. Like for example, one transfer of land from one person to other takes place. Okay. For example, this takes place from person A to person B. Now this person B got himself this registered. He paid the stamp duty and got it registered, but he did not pay. But the similar kind of change about the registration about that parcel of land was not made in the property tax register, but in these two things the changes were made. But in the property tax register, the similar kind of change was not made, due to which the property tax register has now become outdated. And if this person is having the record from the property tax department, he can claim that this land belongs to him because he is having the records of property tax. This anomaly creates litigation, due to which courts have been overburdened with land disputes. Okay? And one survey of Supreme Court also said that on an average the land dispute takes 20 years to settle. Already our courts are very overburdened with the disputes. In Supreme Court itself around 54,000 cases are pending. And in the whole country around 1 crore cases are pending. And most of the cases in lower courts are about civil disputes. Okay. The second one is land records are poorly maintained. As I said, land record data is spread over various departments. Okay. And issues of benami transactions. Benami transactions का meaning होता है किसी और के नाम पे land register करा के to avoid the land sealing act, okay, or to avoid paying property taxes. ठीक है. In that cases, the original owner of the land is not present, but the land has been registered in the name of some other person to avoid stamp duty, taxation and all these things. That is called benami transaction. Although in 2016 Benami Transactions Act was passed, which limited the scope of benami transactions, but still the problems are going on, due to which the consequences are high rate of litigation High rate of litigation because of the anomaly in the records spread across the departments. Okay. Unlawful acquisition by land mafia in rural areas. This is a very pertinent problem. Hurdle in land acquisition for infrastructure and development related projects, and illegal alienation from land. Illegal alienation from land implies कि even though the transfer or the sale and purchase of the land has taken place, but still the ownership rights are not endowed upon the person, because ownership right is a different thing from the right of registration. ठीक है, registration department does not allow registration of a land transfer, does not endow someone with the right of ownership of the land. Why? Registration का मतलब ये है कि registration of property act 1908. okay, the first one is transfer of property act. Okay, transfer of property act, and the transfer of property act says that any kind of transfer or sale of land can take place only after a registration. ठीक है, it says that any kind of transfer or sale of a land can only take place after a registration. ठीक है, and that अब वो registration कहाँ किस act में होगा? That is registration act, basically registration act 1908 act 1908. This act provides for the registration, and this act says that the all kind of transfer or sale of property will take place only after registration. मतलब बिना registration के all the transfer of property is invalid. Now registration act provides for the format of registration. Fine. So it only provides that a sale of or transfer of property has taken place, but it is not land entitlement. ठीक है, it is not the right of deed. Okay, मतलब registration of a property does not entitle one person of the right over the land. ठीक है, it only empowers you to have a certificate that the certain kind of land was transferred from that person to me. But यहाँ पे litigation कैसे arise हो सकता है? That person was not entitled to own that land at the first hand. So how is he able to transfer that land from him to you? Okay. तो departments, the registration department, और इसको registrar कहते हैं, ठीक है, responsible for registration of deeds and collection of stamp duty. The second was revenue department. Revenue department assesses manages a register where the property taxes are managed, जहाँ पे आप जितना भी अपनी property पे tax pay करते हैं वो note होता है, and maintains ROR register. This is record of rights register. ठीक है. And the third one is survey settlement department. Survey and settlement department is the department that prepares maps, cadastral maps. Now what are cadastral maps? Cadastral map is in a revenue or survey department. A cadastral map is a very different thing from the geographical map that we see, and it is also similar to the geographical map that we see in the sense that a cadastral map contains the details of the property. Fine. For example, this is a land parcel. ठीक है, तो cadastral map will contain कि this अब इस land parcel के left में एक 1250 स्क्वायर मीटर का लैंड है, इसके साउथ में एक फॉर एग्जांपल फार्म है ना, इसके ईस्ट में फॉर एग्जांपल एक होम है, और इसके नॉर्थ में रोड है. नाउ ऑल दीज डिटेल्स विल बी कंटेन्ड इन द कैडेस्ट्रल मैप. दिस मैप इज प्रिपेयर्ड बाय सर्वे एंड सेटलमेंट डिपार्टमेंट. फाइन. तो कैडेस्ट्रल मैप्स आर प्रिपेयर्ड बाय सर्वे एंड सेटलमेंट डिपार्टमेंट. तो एक ही लैंड के बारे में जो डिफरेंट इंफॉर्मेशन हैं वो डिफरेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स में प्रेजेंट है, ड्यू टू विच द यूनिफॉर्मिटी इन द लैंड डेटा इज नॉट प्रेजेंट. नाउ व्हाट इज DILRMP? Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. Fine. This scheme was launched in 2008. Fine. As land record. Okay, land record modernization program. Land record modernization program. ठीक है, it was launched in 2008. but subsequently it was converted to Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. What our aim is? Its aim is to update land records, automate mutation. Mutation means changes, automate the whole process. The first one is automate the whole process, that is make the whole process computer based, and automate the mutation. Mutation means changes, any kind of changes that are happening in the registers of the various departments. Okay, so that changes would be naturally reflected into the registers that are maintained by the departments. Automate this process. Whenever a transaction of a land takes place, all the transaction data is automatically updated into the registers of the database of the department that are holding the land records. The third one is integration between textual and spatial information. Textual and spatial information is the cadastral map. Textual information is about the property tax. Textual in the sense कि textual of course is about text, है ना. तो text में जो information present है वो कहाँ पे है? Registry department में, and as well as property tax department में, यानी revenue department में. अब इन तीनों departments के data का integration, so that a single point to obtain the information about a land parcel can be obtained. ठीक है. Interconnectivity between revenue and registration. ठीक है. Revenue and registration में interconnectivity कैसे create की जा सकती है? Whenever a registration of a land is done in some other person's name, the property tax documents should be allotted to that person. Okay, and the original property tax document that the person was holding should be cancelled. To replace the present deeds, registration and presumptive title. Presumptive title means it is assumed that the right of records or the registration deeds are the papers that confer the title, the entitlement of the title of the land. But what happens is that this anomaly creates a lot of litigation. ठीक है, तो इसको हटाने के लिए, and so that now the government wants to award what? Title of the land to the people instead of what? This registration of deeds. ठीक है, या registration of transfer of a land. Now it is a central sector scheme under the Department of Land Revenue, Ministry of Rural Development. Now very important thing is, if the land development, the development of land, the revenue from the land is under the state list, then how can a central government scheme be implemented? ठीक है, तो central government does is it bears all the expenses. Central sector scheme, okay, मतलब expenses कौन bear करेगा? Central government 100% expenses bear करेगी. Moreover, this scheme also empowers. This scheme is basically a financial motivation for the states. जो state governments के जो departments of land हैं, उनको central government पैसे देती है to implement this scheme. Okay, so central governments don't have to utilize their own money. ठीक है, तो what central government is doing is basically providing finances as a financial motivation to the states, so that they can pay for the modernization of the land records. Now what are the components? The first one is computerization of land records, survey and resurvey, and the third one is computerization of registration. Computerization of land records and computerization of registration are two different things. Computerization of land record means जो land records pre-existing हैं, ठीक है, उन सारे land records के data को computer based बनाना. Fine. And computerization of registration is the process of registration, ठीक है, जो कि तहसील में होता है. Fine. Whenever you are going to purchase or sell your land, you will have to go to the nearest tehsil, and all the transactions in SDM office are done. Now this process needs to be computerized. ठीक है, क्योंकि of course there are many problems like stamp duty collection में problems हैं, है ना. तो अगर ये process computerized हो जाएगा तो leakages जो है stamp duty and all इनको minimize किया जा सकता है. Moreover, computerization of registration will make one more very important thing, that one land is not getting transferred to two or more people, मतलब more than one people, because as soon as the one land is being sold to another person which already belongs to someone else, there will be the computer will detect that and that process can be stopped. So this is one of the very like computerization or digitalization will help in removing the land fraud. Fine. Okay. Initiatives. Now, what are the initiatives? The first one is National Generic Document Registration System. It is a one nation, one software. That means one software. The first one is to integrate like in a horizontal fashion and then in a vertical fashion. How? National generic one software will be provided to all the states. That means uniformization of the process of maintaining land records. Very important, because हर स्टेट अपनी तरफ से हर स्टेट का जो क्राइटेरिया है या हर स्टेट का जो लैंड रजिस्टर है उसमें अलग अलग चीज़ें मेंशन्ड है, ड्यू टू विच in cases of infrastructure, in cases of land acquisition for infrastructure development and other such processes, there is a lot of problem. ठीक है, तो उस प्रॉब्लम को खत्म करने के लिए फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल द फर्स्ट स्कीम इज कि all the registration, the maintenance of records should be uniformized across the country. The second one is unique land parcel identification number. The second one is of course the one we are talking about. This has been launched in around 18 states. Now this has been launched in the current session in around 10 states, and it will be subsequently extended to the other states as well. It is what unique land parcel identification number. It will be a 14-digit unique code allotted to every parcel of identified land, and that code will be containing the longitude and latitude of the will be based roughly on the data of longitude and latitude of a parcel of land that has been identified. Okay. Now progress, computerization of land records. The first one, digitization of cadastral maps, integration of SRO with revenue offices. Okay. And computerization of registration. Now land records के computerization में it has been completed in more than 23 states में it has been completed more than 90%. मतलब now this scheme is nearing its completion. ठीक है. Digital cadastral maps के updation में 19 states जो हैं वहाँ पे 90% के around काम हो चुका है. Integration of SRO with revenue office. SRO means basically the transfer deeds. Integration of land records with the basically registration of land records with the revenue office. Fine. That has been completed by more than 90% in 22 states. And computerization of registration. It has also been completed by more than 90% in 16 states. Okay. So it's very important to understand that the scheme is nearing its completion, and now a subset of that scheme, that is unique land identification number, has been launched now. A very similar scheme was recently launched in many states, that is Swamitva scheme. Now there is a difference between Swamitva scheme and this one. So what is the difference we are going to study now? In a very brief, we will be looking at what is the difference between Swamitva scheme and this one. So this digital land record modernization program deals with the land records or the property that is basically agricultural land, whereas Swamitva scheme, ठीक है, Swamitva, okay. The second one is Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. The Swamitva scheme is about, first of all, it is from Ministry of Rural Development, plus Panchayati Raj, okay, plus Survey Department, plus Revenue. Okay. Swamitva scheme. This is implemented by Ministry of Rural Development plus what? Ministry of Rural Development plus Survey Department and Revenue Department. Now when I say department, that means ministries of states, because states में ministries को department के नाम से जाना जाता है. ठीक है. The first difference is this, because there is one important Panchayati Raj, and the main implementing body is Panchayati Raj, the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Fine. The second one is it is about the मतलब property or आबादी areas, very important, आबादी areas, ठीक है. It is about agricultural lands, agricultural and of course non-agricultural commercial lands. Agriculture, non-agricultural lands, the ones which are not used for development of homes, but Swamitva scheme is for development of the land that is being used for property development. Okay, तो अब इन आबादी areas basically it is being implemented in rural development, rural areas, तो Ministry of Rural Development and पंचायती राज. तो अब इसका importance क्या है स्वामित्व स्कीम का? It will be done कि जितने भी habitations हैं उनका एक ड्रोन मैपिंग किया जाएगा. Okay, and then all the drone mapping will be done so that all the anomalies or the claims over the lands could be settled. Okay, and this a very detailed record will with the panchayat, the gram panchayats will be available, so that the gram panchayats can plan their development schemes. Okay, plan their they can also plan their property taxation. They can make an assessment of how much property tax they should levy. ठीक है, क्योंकि this will be done through drone mapping. Okay, मतलब जितने भी villages हैं उन villages का drone mapping किया जाएगा, and वहाँ पे उन villages में जो habitations हैं, जो homes हैं, उन homes को identify करके and उसके लिए papers allot किए जाएंगे the owners to the owners. ठीक है, तो अब इसका benefit क्या होगा? The first one is the panchayat will be like better equipped to make an assessment of the property tax. The second will be the panchayat will be more equipped to make a plan for the development of the village. The third one is when the people are having papers for their property, so they will be able to mortgage it and get loans. तो rural area में credit का जो facilitation है वो improve हो सकता है. Okay. On the second hand, this Digital India land record modernization program is basically about land records of the agricultural and non-agricultural commercial lands. Apart from this one, अब इसका क्या help होगा? इसका बहुत ज़्यादा help ये तो होगा. The first one is reduction of litigation because land rights सब clearly defined हो जाएंगे. ठीक है. The second one is कि जो hereditary जो tax on inheritance है उसको government better implement कर पाएगी. ठीक है. So this was Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. Okay. The next topic is Mines and Mineral Development Amendment Bill 2021. ठीक है. This was why this is in news because Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both have passed this bill, and this bill seeks to amend Minerals and Mine Development and Regulation Act 1957. ठीक है. तो this act deals with a lot of changes that are in consonance with the National Mineral Policy of 2019. It seeks to replace Minerals and Mines Development and Regulation Act 1957. मतलब it is not only amendment, it also seeks to replace the existing bill. Okay. So what are existing laws for regulation of development of mines and minerals in India? The first one is MMDR Act 1957. The second one is Coal Mines Special Provisions Act 2015. ठीक है. And National Mineral Policy 2019. तो हम सबसे पहले देखेंगे National Mineral Policy. What is the foundational policy underlying the underlying policy which governs the development of minerals and mines in India? Okay. The very important thing is the first and the very important thing about mines and minerals is कि India produces around 88 minerals. ठीक है. 88 minerals. The second one is minerals are what? Minerals are property of people. Property of people. ठीक है, because they belong to everyone. Okay. The second very important thing is minerals are property of people. If they are property of people, how is government trying to regulate the use of minerals? ठीक है. So why are people not going to the coal mines and digging all the coal out? Because the government acts as trustee. The government acts as trustee of the minerals. What? The government acts as trustee of the minerals of the whole country, because all the minerals are vested to the government of India, and it holds those minerals in the trust of people of India. Okay. So government acts as trustee of the minerals. Okay. Sorry. What is national mineral policy? The first one is grant of industry status. In 2019, the mineral policy stated that the mining sector should be granted industry status. Fine. Although industry status is not defined in any law. Industry status has not been defined under any statutory law or constitutional law or any kind of law in India. But what are the benefits of providing industry status to a sector or an industry or a business or a mining or a sector? Okay. The first one is कि when a sector is defined to be an industry, ठीक है, तो हर स्टेट के जो इंडस्ट्रियल लॉज हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल रेगुलेशंस हैं रिगार्डिंग क्रेडिट, है ना, रिगार्डिंग द लेबर एंड रिगार्डिंग द बेनिफिट ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री, ठीक है. Now those benefits will be accorded to the sector that has been granted the industry status. Okay. What are the benefits? The first one is the benefits that are already being accorded to industries, है ना. अगर माइनिंग को इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर डिक्लेयर कर दिया, फॉर एग्जांपल मणिपुर डिक्लेयर्ड स्पोर्ट्स एज ए इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर वेरी रिसेंटली, तो अब हर स्टेट अपनी इंडस्ट्रीज को प्रमोट करने के लिए बहुत सारी पॉलिसीज बनाता है, ठीक है, एंड बहुत सारे टैक्स में बेनिफिट्स प्रोवाइड करता है, बहुत सारे रूल्स और स्कीम्स लेके आता है हर स्टेट, ठीक है. बट व्हेन a particular sector is granted the status of an industry, so that particular sector becomes the beneficiary of all the welfare schemes for that all the schemes that are being run for the that particular industry in that particular state, okay. Although industry status as a status is not been defined under any Indian law. Second one is encourage dedicated mineral corridors, okay. For example, agar Singhbhum is a region where iron ore and coal are basically extracted. छोटा नागपुर प्लेटू है ना, अब ये मिनरल डेंस एरियाज हैं, ओके. अब यहाँ से इवैक्यूएशन ऑफ मिनरल्स टू द प्रोसेसिंग सेंटर्स इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ओके. तो टू डेवलप ऑल दिस डेडिकेटेड मिनरल कॉरिडोर्स लाइक डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया लिमिटेड इज डेवलपिंग व्हाट डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट लाइंस, ठीक है. फ्रेट लाइन मीन्स ऐसे ट्रेन लाइंस जहाँ पे माल ढुलाई के लिए डेडिकेटेड ट्रेन चलेंगी, ठीक है. तो सिमिलरली ऑन द सिमिलर लाइन डेडिकेटेड मिनरल कॉरिडोर्स फॉर द एक्सट्रैक्शन एंड ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ मिनरल्स फ्रॉम द माइंस टू द प्रोसेसिंग सेंटर्स, ओके. हार्मोनाइज द टैक्स लेवीज एंड रॉयल्टी विद द इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स. करंटली इंडिया में टैक्सेस ऑन मिनरल एंड माइनिंग इज अराउंड 10 to 14%, ठीक है. India is one of the highest taxed country in respect of minerals and mines. The international standard is about 4 to 6%. Okay. This shows that the companies or the international corporations are not ready to bring their technology to make efficient mining or scientific mining more efficient in India because of the high taxation that they face in India. Okay. So it says that the underlying policy should be so that it harmonizes the taxes, levies and royalty, ठीक है, with the international standards. The fourth one is rationalize the reserve areas. Many areas have been priorly reserved for what public sector units only, ठीक है. Now rationalize those areas to open up for private sector also, so that the private sector can bring its own technology, है ना, because public sector mining is fine, but there has been a consistent lack of growth. जो एक CAGR कहते हैं इसको, compounded annual growth rate, CAGR, मतलब annual growth rate of the mining sector has been stagnant over time, ठीक है, because most of the mining was concentrated in the hands of public sector units, okay, due to which the technological advancements did not take place in the mining sector, and hence despite the fact that India produces 88 minerals and the capacity of India is similar to Africa and Australia, but still we are importing coal from Australia and other minerals from other countries. So to improve our what mining capabilities, to improve our self dependence or atmanirbharta in the sector of mining, what we need to do is we need to rationalize the sector so that it can be opened for प्राइवेटाइजेशन ऑल्सो. रैशनलाइजेशन का मतलब प्राइवेटाइजेशन नहीं है, रैशनलाइजेशन का मतलब है कि जो लिस्ट है, जो रिजर्व लिस्ट है, उस रिजर्व लिस्ट में बहुत सारी चीज़ों को हटाया जाए और उनको ओपन अप किया जाए प्राइवेटाइजेशन के लिए. दैट इज कॉल्ड रैशनलाइजेशन. इट इज अ प्रीकर्सर टू प्राइवेटाइजेशन ऑफ कोर्स. नाउ व्हाट इज मिनरल, व्हाट इज द स्टेटस ऑफ मिनरल ओनरशिप इन इंडिया? द फर्स्ट वन इज स्टेट and the second one is union. Now constitution says that all the mineral within the boundary of a state is, the state is the owner of that mineral. Okay, that means the royalty that is going to accrue from the mining of that mineral is going to accrue to the state, whereas all the mineral that is under the sea or is under the exclusive economic zone or under the continental shelf of the or under the open sea, open ocean, ठीक है, like polymetallic nodules, ठीक है, तो वो सारे मिनरल्स का जो माइनिंग अथॉरिटी है एंड जो माइनिंग के थ्रू रॉयल्टी आएगा वो किसको जाएगा? यूनियन गवर्नमेंट को. ओके. द सेकंड थिंग इज एंट्री 27 ऑफ स्टेट लिस्ट. इट सेज दैट राइट टू रेगुलेशन ऑफ माइनिंग एक्टिविटीज एंड मिनरल डेवलपमेंट is within the state boundary lies with the state government, subject to the condition of the entry 54 of the central list. Okay. 7th schedule में there are 3 lists. Okay, the first one is state list, the second one is union list, the third one is concurrent list. तो state list में ये कहा है कि within the first one is कि all the mineral that is within the boundary of the state is owned by the state. The second one is कि although it is being owned by the state, but the rules, the right of making regulation and rules for the development of mining in that area or mining of that mineral within the state boundary lies with the state, subject to the conditions which are provided in under the entry 54 of the union list. Now what is the union list entry 54? It says that right to regulation of mines and minerals throughout the country lie with the state, except for those minerals for which the parliament decides it to be in the national interest. ठीक है. That means अगर कोई मिनरल पूरे इंडिया में कहीं है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल यूरेनियम, एंड पार्लियामेंट हैज डिक्लेयर्ड दैट यूरेनियम इज ऑफ द माइनिंग ऑफ यूरेनियम ऑफ नेशनल इंपॉर्टेंस, then uranium cannot be mined by the state government. That is, the state government cannot grant concessions or license for the mining of uranium. Why? Because the parliamentary law has declared it to be the mineral of national importance. Okay. Now in pursuance of entry 54, ठीक है, in pursuance of entry 54, the central government enacted what? Minerals and Mine Development and Regulation Act 1957. In the pursuance of entry 54. Now we are going to deal with that act. MMDR Act 1957. The mines were divided into 2 parts. The mines were, this act has, first I will tell you beforehand, the act has 4 schedules. Okay. The 4 schedules. We'll be talking about the 4 schedules right now. The mines were divided into 2 parts. The first one is captive mines and non-captive mines. Captive mines were declared to be those mines that were to be held for some specific end use. ये mines कैसी होती थी? To be held for some end use, some specific end use. End use का meaning क्या होता है? For example, if a power sector, if there is a company which generates powers, ठीक है, and it uses coal, it's a thermal power corporation for example, then it can access coal from some mine जहाँ पे वो mining भी कर रहा है और इस माइनिंग से ही कोल अपने पावर प्लांट में भी एम्प्लॉय कर रहा है. ठीक है. तो इफ दैट कॉर्पोरेशन इज यूजिंग दिस माइन, देन इट कैन नॉट सेल द माइंड प्रोडक्ट इनटू द ओपन मार्केट. इट कैन ओनली यूज दैट प्रोडक्ट फॉर इट्स ओन पर्पस. ओके. मतलब सिंपल है. For example, this is NTPC. NTPC is National Thermal Power Corporation. It uses coal for production of power. So for example, it is mining coal from some specific mine, ठीक है? In, for example, in Jharia, है ना? Now it cannot sell the coal that has been mined from this mine to the open market. It cannot sell. It cannot sell the coal that has been mined from that Jharia mine because NTPC has taken this mine from the government on the specific license that it will be using the specific mine only for the purpose of its own coal power generation. ठीक है? It is called captive mine. All other mines are called non-captive mines. मतलब ऐसी mines जहाँ से आप normally extract करके mineral ore को open market में auction करते हो या बेचते हो जो भी. तो for the there was in Minerals and Mine MMDR Act 1957 there was a classification of mines into two parts. The first one was captive mines, the second one was non-captive mines. Now second very important point is the states had power to issue mining license, ठीक है? Because the states are the owners of the minerals within their state boundaries, okay, and the whole territory of the India is divided into either union territories or the states. So union territories में of course the union government is having the power, but in the states the power to grant license or the power to grant permit for mining was with the state governments, subject to those minerals which were placed in the Schedule 1. ठीक है? Subject to those minerals which were reserved for center. Center या अब as I told, this act has 4 schedules. This act has 4 schedules and some minerals were mentioned in the first schedule. First schedule में पहले कौन-कौन से mineral mentioned थे? The first one is coal and lignite. Okay. Or second, atomic minerals. Atomic minerals. Now coal and lignite, that means for the permission or the license for mining coal and lignite cannot be granted by state governments, okay, because that has been reserved for the central government. The second one are atomic minerals. That means atomic minerals, for example, lithium, beryllium, these are all uranium, plutonium, monazite, sand. These are all atomic minerals. That means the permission for mining of these minerals, whether they lie in the state or offshore, cannot be granted by the states because they were mentioned in the first schedule of this act, and the first schedule contained those minerals that were reserved for central government and not the state government. The central government also had the power to declare any mining activities as captive mining. That means if one needed to apply for mining of some mining from some for some captive purpose, for example power generation, they do not have to apply to the state government. Instead, they have to apply to the central government. Okay. But very important thing is, okay, although the mining of these was the permission for mining of these minerals were granted by central government, the royalty went to the state governments as well because of the basic nature of the fact that the state government was the owner of what? The minerals within their territories. Okay. Now, fourth very important thing is the central government had the power to declare non-minor minerals. There is no such term as major minerals. ठीक है? Major minerals is not defined under any section of MMDR Act. But section 3E, okay, section 3E, states that the central government is having the power of declaring any any mineral as minor mineral, okay. But non-minor mineral का declaration जैसा कुछ नहीं था. तो any mineral that has not been declared a minor mineral is non-minor mineral or major mineral. ठीक है? That is section 3E of MMDR Act 1957. अब minor minerals, there are 55 minor minerals. ठीक है? तो minor minerals के regarding जितना भी policy decision है, जितना भी royalty का decision है, जितना भी माइनिंग का डिसीजन है, वो सारा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के पास है, खाली माइनर मिनरल्स के रिस्पेक्ट में. ओके. अब माइनर मिनरल्स में एग्जांपल्स अगर हम देखें तो द फर्स्ट वन इज फॉर एग्जांपल चॉक, लाइमस्टोन, ओके, द थर्ड वन इज clay and sand and boulder. ठीक है, तो ये है कुछ माइनर मिनरल्स. इनके रिगार्डिंग जितना भी पॉलिसी डिसीजन डेवलपमेंट ऑफ फॉर वेदर द माइनिंग और द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द मिनरल लाइज विद द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट एंड दैट इज द एक्सक्लूसिव पावर ऑफ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. फाइन. Now this act also stated that now this is the amendment act. Fine. But there is one another act regarding the mining in India, that is Coal CMSP Act 2015, Coal Mining Special Provisions Act 2015, Coal Mining Special Provisions Act 2015. This act, what this act did was, it did two things for coal mining. ठीक है, coal mining has been mentioned in Schedule 1 of what MMDR Act 1957. That means all the policy decisions and all the decisions regarding the development and the mining of coal are made by central government, okay, and not by state government. So now central government, in the pursuance of that schedule, has made this Coal Mining Special Provisions Act 2015. It was basically an amendment act into the Coal Mines Act, the earlier one. ठीक है, यहाँ पे क्या हुआ? The coal mining was open to private sector. First one, mining was open to private sector. This was the first thing. The second thing was coal mining was open to all. Coal mining was open to all. Open to all का meaning क्या है? Earlier what the process was कि coal mining was reserved for the industries that are engaged in steel, power, coal mining itself, and iron ore extraction. मतलब the coal mining was reserved for the industries that were already engaged in iron ore extraction, steel production, power production, and coal mining extraction itself. मतलब only 4 kind of industries were having the power of for applying for the what? Coal mining. That too was reserved for private public sector like Coal India. Coal India is a Maharatna company and it has had the monopoly over mining of the coal in India. Now what the basic changes that CMSP Coal Mining Special Provisions Act 2015 did was, the first was it opened it for private sector. That means the private companies can now also apply for coal mining licenses. The second was it was open to all. That is, you need not to belong to the 4 categories of steel mining, iron ore extraction, power production or iron coal mining itself. ठीक है, मतलब अब किसी के पास coal mining का experience ना भी हो, that person can also apply. Okay, so these were the changes made in Coal Mining Special Provisions Act 2015. ठीक है, but now MMDR Act 2021 has been brought. This is a very progressive law in the sense that it tries to remove the bureaucratic hurdles. It tries to open up the mining sector for a wider section of people by trying to attract private infrastructure, private investment in the mining sector. Okay, so the first one is removal of end use, the restriction of end use of minerals. That means the captive mines का जो process था, that has been ended now. That means the mines that were in earlier laws, central government had the power to reserve certain kind of mining activity as for captive mines. Now that captive mine, the concept of captive mine was based on the end use of the mineral. जैसे we took the example of NTPC. NTPC is using some mine from Jharia and they are mining coal and using for their own purpose. But they are not able to sell that coal they are mining into the open market. Okay. Now that end use restriction has been ended. That is, we are not going to have any kind of restriction as to how you are going to use your product after you mine. Okay, you can either use it for yourself or you can sell it in the open market. Now the second very important provision is sale of mineral by captive mine. जो existing captive mines हैं, if they are able to fulfill, okay, if they are if the captive mines that are existing, if they are able to fulfill their own demands, है ना, then after fulfilling of their own demand for the mineral, they can sell up to 50% of their mining into the open market. Okay, now the captive mines have been allowed to sell up to 50% into the open market after fulfilling their own need. But earlier, what was the provision, that the royalty was not granted to the government. Okay, now royalty to the government will have to be paid. Okay. Third point is auction by the central government in certain cases. This is a very contentious provision in the sense that the central government can now prescribe a time limit for the completion of the auction. In consultation with the state government, a term has been added. That is why I have put it in the brackets. That is, the central government may prescribe to the state government that, for example, you have to auction some mineral within 3 months. If the central government prescribes that, of course, in the consultation with the state government. If the state government fails to auction the mineral that has been extracted from some mine within 3 months, then what will happen? The central government will auction that mineral itself, but the royalty that is being paid will go to the state government itself. That is, now the central government will be able to auction some mineral that was being earlier auctioned by state government, but the royalty will go to the state government itself, जैसा कि पहले था. Okay, if the auction is not completed within the stipulated frame, the central government can auction by itself. Okay. Now, very important thing is a national mineral index will be developed. Now, what is this national mineral index? National coal index was developed. National coal index was developed in 2018. Okay. Now, what is national coal index? National coal index is nothing but an index to track the price. For example, the sale of the coal in the open market is going to take place via Okay. National coal index is an index that tracks the price of the coal that is being sold. Okay. Depending upon the weights that have been assigned, I will tell you how. For example, auction, notification, या notified price, and what? This is import price. Fine. Now, what government has did is to make the process of selling the coal in a transparent fashion, okay, and for a better price discovery mechanism, a national coal index was developed. This coal index is the accumulation of all these three kind of prices that are being obtained for the sale of coal. ठीक है. For example, auction मान लो 100 rupees kg हो रहा है, for example. Notified price is 78 rupees, for example 80 rupees kg, and import price is 120 rupees kg for coal. Now what government did is auction price पे 70% weight, okay, notified price पे 20% weight, and import price पे 10% weight. 10, 20, 70, that amounts to 100. This is one thing I'm telling you for example. This is only for demonstration. This is not in reality. अब क्या होगा? 70% of 100, okay, that is 70. 20% of 80, okay, 16, and 10% of 120, that is 12. This will be the index for coal. Now this will be the actual price. Now the person who is going to buy coal from all the people, है ना, he will be knowing that the national coal index is around 98 rupees. Fine. So he can make a better decision. Okay. Similarly, national mineral index is being also developed based upon the auction, notified, and import price of the minerals. Okay. That is national mineral index. Now, this is a very contentious issue from the environment point of view, the transfer of statutory clearances will take place. इसको हम समझने की कोशिश करते हैं. What is this? What happened? What earlier was कि transfer of statutory clearances. What the earlier in MMDR 1957 and 2021. Okay, what are the changes? For example, if the mining license of a company expires, in that case, MMDR stipulated that the statutory clearances that the older company had were to be transferred to the newer company, the company which has now got the license for mining, for a stipulated period of 2 years. ठीक है? For example, A was the original company that was mining. ठीक है? अब इसका लाइसेंस एक्सपायर हो गया. Now B applied for the license of mining and B got the license for mining from mining Ministry of Mines. But अब इस कंपनी को भी इस कंपनी के जो स्टैट्यूटरी क्लियरेंसेस थे सारे ट्रांसफर हो जाएंगे फॉर 2 years. Okay, and now this company will have to obtain the statutory clearances on its own within the stipulated period of 2 years. अगर ये कंपनी फेल हो जाती है to obtain this statutory clearances within 2 years, then its license for mining will be cancelled. ठीक है? अब ये statutory clearances होते क्या हैं? Statutory clearances, okay. The first one is environmental clearance. Environmental clearance. Environmental clearance, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change provide करता है. For this, a Parivesh portal has also been launched. Parivesh portal. This is also important from current affairs point of view. ठीक है? A Parivesh portal has been launched. Parivesh portal is a single window clearance portal to apply for all kind of environmental clearances that a mining or a company may need. ठीक है? The second one is from Pollution Control Board. Okay. The third one is मतलब इतने जितने भी क्लियरेंसेस हैं ये ऑब्टेन करने होते हैं हर कंपनी को बिफोर सेटिंग अप एन इंडस्ट्री. ठीक है? सिमिलरली इट वर वैलिड फॉर माइंस ऑल्सो. अब क्या है कि ये सारे स्टैट्यूटरी क्लियरेंसेस जो एक कंपनी ने ऑब्टेन किए थे पहले, नाउ दे विल बी ट्रांसफर्ड टू earlier what under 1957 Act also they will be transferred to B, but only for a period of 2 years. Now this 2-year term has been removed and simply the clearances that A obtained for itself will be transferred to the clearances to B, and there is no 2-year period. That means it does not have to obtain new clearances for the mining at the very same place. Okay, understood? So transfer of statutory clearances. Okay. Now allocation of mines with expired license. If the new lease auction has, when an auction, what happens is when a company, for example, the example we took recently was, for example, if a company इस कंपनी का लाइसेंस एक्सपायर हो जाता है, ठीक है, तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट कैन यूज दैट. एंड फॉर एग्जांपल if the mining license of company A has expired and the state government is not able to auction that mine to some other company, then what state government can do? State government can transfer the license to some public sector unit instead of some private entity. ठीक है? तो what state government can do? The state government can transfer that license for mining to some public sector unit. Okay, and then but what is the expiry of license? एक्सपायरी ऑफ लाइसेंस को हम डिफाइन कैसे करेंगे? द फर्स्ट वन इज आइदर इसका जो स्टिपुलेटेड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम था वो एक्सपायर हो जाए. फॉर एग्जांपल इफ ए ऑब्टेन्ड अ माइनिंग लाइसेंस फॉर 5 years एंड 5 years हैव ट्रांसपायर्ड, मतलब 5 साल खत्म हो गए तो इसका लाइसेंस एक्सपायर हो गया. अदरवाइज if A obtained a mining license for 5 years but it was not able to start the mining operation within 2 years, so that also is considered the expiration of mining license. Okay, तो यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं, वही डिफाइंड है ना. The state government can transfer the mining lease to a public sector unit but up to 10 years. ठीक है? And the sixth one is non-exclusive reconnaissance permit. Non-exclusive reconnaissance permit. Reconnaissance मतलब to make a assessment, है ना. For example, if you are going to some forest and make some geographical assessment of the forest as to what kind of minerals may be present there, that is called reconnaissance. Okay, so non-exclusive reconnaissance permit, that is not one area or one block cannot be allotted to one company alone. That is the policy. Understood? Matlab, one block or one area of minerals can be allotted to multiple agencies. That is non-exclusive reconnaissance permit can be granted. So that was the Mines and Mineral Development Regulation Act 2021. Okay. Now, Inflation Targeting and Monetary Policy Committee. Why this is very important? Because there was a contract between government and RBI in 2016 that the government will set the inflation target for 5 years. Okay? And RBI will use its monetary policy to achieve that inflation target. Okay? सबसे पहले इंपॉर्टेंट चीज क्या था कि गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड करेगी कि इन्फ्लेशन कितना कंट्री में रहना चाहिए, एंड देन आरबीआई विल यूज इट्स मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी टूल. ओके, क्योंकि फिस्कल पॉलिसी टूल इज अवेलेबल विद गवर्नमेंट, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी टूल इज अवेलेबल विद आरबीआई. So there was an agreement between RBI and government, that government will set the inflation target and RBI will try to manipulate its monetary policy to achieve that target. And that target was set around, inflation target was set around 4 plus minus 2%. Inflation target was 4 plus minus 2%. मतलब 2% से लेके 6% को आरबीआई गवर्नमेंट ने कंसिडर किया स्टेबल एंड नॉन इन्फ्लेशनरी इन्फ्लेशन. ठीक है, मतलब 2% से 6% के बीच में इन्फ्लेशन के बैंड को रखना है. दिस इज कॉल्ड फ्लेक्सिबल टारगेटिंग. व्हेन वन टारगेट इज प्रोवाइडेड, फॉर एग्जांपल कि 4% का टारगेट अचीव करो, दिस इज कॉल्ड स्ट्रिक्ट टारगेटिंग, दिस इज कॉल्ड फ्लेक्सिबल टारगेटिंग. तो इकोनॉमी में ये डेफिनेशंस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती हैं. दैट इज व्हाई आई एम टेलिंग यू. फाइनेंस एक्ट ऑफ 2016, फाइनेंस एक्ट बजट के टाइम आता है. ठीक है, तो फाइनेंस एक्ट is the act which deals with taxation and non-taxation financial regulation that the government tries to impose. तो amended the RBI Act 1934. ठीक है, एक है RBI Act 1934 और दूसरा है बैंकिंग रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1949. दोनों एक्ट के बेसिक आप पढ़ लीजिएगा प्लीज, दैट आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. तो RBI Act 1934, ठीक है, was amended by Finance Act 2016 and an agreement was reached upon by RBI and government to maintain the inflation within the set limit of 2% to 6%, basically 4% plus minus 2% का tolerance. The government, now the agreement was signed in 2016 and that agreement expired on 31st of the March 2021. But what the central government, the RBI favored it. The RBI favored the extension of the regime, this inflation targeting regime. ठीक है, RBI favored the extension when the government was reviewing this law, this monetary policy committee, whole thing. The RBI favored it and now the government has extended the whole with the same target up to 2026. That is, the government has now extended the mandate of monetary policy committee up to 2026, another 5 years. It was originally brought in 2021. Now it will be it was originally brought in 2016. Now it has been extended to 2026. Under the agreement, central government will fix. Okay. Monetary Policy Committee. Under the same agreement, a Monetary Policy Committee was formed. This committee composed of 6 people. 3 were from RBI and 3 were from government. ठीक है. The first was Governor of the Reserve Bank of India. He was chairperson, ex officio chairperson. And Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, he was member of, he was of course a member of ex officio member. Ex officio means by the virtue of, ठीक है, by just being the virtue of the Deputy Governor of the RBI, he became a natural member of the committee. ठीक है, जब एक्स ऑफिशियो कहते हैं तो ये होता है। ओके, तो सिमिलरली द चेयरपर्सन ऑफ द आरबीआई, ठीक है, द गवर्नर ऑफ द आरबीआई वाज चेयरपर्सन ऑफ द मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी, ठीक है, एंड इन चार्ज वाज डेप्यूटी गवर्नर ऑफ द आरबीआई. The third person was one officer of the RBI that was to be nominated by the chairperson, yeah, governor, fine. And then there were three members who were from government. The government nominated them, ठीक है. तो एक ऐसी कमेटी जिसमें three members from RBI and 3 members from government, a fine balance between RBI and government, ठीक है. तो benchmark repo rate was the tool for inflation control. benchmark repo rate क्या है? RBI a commercial bank, ठीक है. repo rate, what is repo rate? repo rate is repurchase obligation, ठीक है. तो Reserve Bank of India and commercial bank for example SBI, okay. तो when repo rate is okay, repo rate is increased, when for example repo rate is increased का मतलब होता है कि the loan that the commercial banks are taking from RBI becomes costly, ठीक है. तो when the commercial banks which are taking loans from Reserve Bank of India, these loans of course, the repo loans are of course fortnightly, मतलब 14 दिन का लोन होता है. तो because there is a repurchase obligation कि after 14 days I will take back my securities and I will pay you back. तो if there's a problem in us understanding this repo operation, I will tell you in a bit of detail. It will take very small amount of time. For example, this is RBI, okay, and this is SBI, okay. Inflation is understood as excessive supply of money in the market. For example, this is the borrower. He is taking a lot of loans from SBI and investing that into the market, due to which the demand for the goods is being pushed up, okay. Yeah, money supply is being increased. If the money supply in the market is being increased, the value of money will fall, okay. That means the amount of commodity, or the commodity that was earlier bought for rupees 30 is now being bought for rupees 50, because now every person is having a lot of money. That means the value of money has fallen down, है ना, जिसकी वजह से prices up हो गए हैं, ठीक है. तो that means what SBI needs to, what RBI needs to do is RBI needs to suck this money out of the system, ठीक है. RBI needs to suck this money out of the system, or RBI can do it otherwise by restricting the flow of the money in the market. How? If somehow SBI increases the rate of interest that it charges on its loans, ठीक है. For example, earlier 5% पे कोई लोन मिल रहा था, तो और नाउ 7% पे लोन मिलने लगा. तो इन दोनों केसेस में क्या होगा? 5% पे ज्यादा लोग खरीद रहे थे, ज्यादा लोग लोन ले रहे थे SBI से, बट नाउ it has become 7%. तो 7% पे लोग, now the loan has become costly, ठीक है, dearer. तो what people will do, the people will have a tendency to take lesser loans, ठीक है. And when they are going to take lesser loans, तो market में money की shortage हो जाएगा. मतलब of course the kind of supply that was earlier managed, that will get reduced, due to which the inflation will decrease, ठीक है, inflation decrease. This is control of inflation. अब ये कैसे implement करे गवर्नमेंट, RBI कैसे implement करे इस चीज को? SBI को how can RBI force SBI to increase its rate of interest? By charging a higher rate of interest. Sorry, this is RBI, this is SBI. Now what it will do, it will increase the rate of interest on the loans, ठीक है. अब ये लोन्स कौन से लोन्स होते हैं? फोर्टनाइटली लोन्स, बेसिकली इसको कहते हैं फोर्टनाइटली. Any event that occurs in a 14 days is called fortnightly, okay. Now what is repo? repurchase obligation. For example, SBI is having some liquidity crunch. Okay, what SBI will do, SBI अपने सारे government securities, government जो G-Secs है इसके पास, that it purchased in open market operations, for example, or from government, ठीक है, it will mortgage its collateral, it will mortgage its government securities as collaterals to RBI. For example, if it is about rupees 100 crores, अब ये 100 करोड़ की जी सिक्योरिटीज अपनी G-Secs कहाँ पे RBI के पास गिरवी रख देगा, है ना, and then it will take a loan of 100 crores. Fine, this is called repurchase obligation या repo operation. ठीक है, मतलब कि after 14 days SBI promises RBI that I will take this whole security back to me, I will buy back my securities, but for today please provide me 100 crore rupees because I am falling short of my money demands, my cash demands. Please provide me rupees 100 and you can take my collaterals as a form of security. ठीक है, because this is a secured loan. So, but I will purchase my security back after 14 days. So you don't have to have this G-Secs का obligation आपके ऊपर नहीं रह जाएगा. So what happens is RBI charges a specific rate of interest. ठीक है, if RBI increases that rate of interest, ठीक है, so the SBI will be disincentivized to take more loan from RBI. Okay. Now, अब पहले जो 2% पे इंटरेस्ट पे 100 करोड़ लोन ले रहा था SBI, अब मान लो 4% या 2.7% इंटरेस्ट कर दिया, तो ये 70 करोड़ ही लोन लेगा. ठीक है. Similarly, अब ये 70 करोड़, if it is taking a 100 crore loan, then it will increase its own rate of interest, that because now the loan that it has taken is a costly loan. It has to pay it back to RBI because it has to pay some interest to RBI. In that case, what SBI will do, it will increase its own loaning interest rate, है ना, तो इसके अपने interest rates महंगे हो जाएंगे. And similarly, reverse repo is when RBI borrows from SBI. Okay. तो benchmark repo rate was the benchmark tool for control of flow of money in the market. That is all explained here. Not relevant, I told you already. Okay, now we are here to analyze some effects that have taken place after the implementation of monetary policy. You can see that this line is real credit growth, non-food year-on-year basis percentage, and real GDP growth. This line is GDP growth, year-on-year basis. Okay, a very crucial analysis here is, this was the period where monetary policy was implemented. Yeah, the monetary policy committee whole thing came into existence. Prior to this, you can see that the credit growth has been high. Okay, the credit growth has been high as compared to the rate of GDP growth. But after this season, you can see the rate of credit growth has fallen. Basically, this fall has taken place from 2013 itself. 2013 onwards, the rate of credit growth has fallen. Rate of credit growth means the credit decides the kind of economy we are living in. If the credit is growing very fastly, that means investments, the public sector or the private sector are borrowing hugely from banks and they are investing a lot. Okay. But this is not a very actual depiction. Okay. Why? Because after 2014-2015, asset quality review was also done by RBI, due to which banks का huge NPA सामने आ गया, and the banks were asked to clear their balance sheet, and जिसकी वजह से asset quality review होने के बाद banks का balance sheet stressed हो गया, जिसकी वजह से they were not able to lend with a similar capacity. Okay. But the credit growth has fallen as compared to the rate of GDP growth, because the credit growth in these years, okay, in these years also was higher as compared to the credit growth now. So monetary policy committee focused a lot on controlling the inflation. That means they have been tampering with the main focus of RBI was inflation targeting. Okay, so inflation targeting की वजह से what they did was to restrict the growth of inflation. They predicted higher interest rates. ठीक है, तो in that case interest rates of bank also increased and the people were not willing to take more loans. Okay, the second important conclusion is that the RBI's inflation forecasts have been slightly over the side. RBI has been very conservative in making the decisions about inflation forecasts. ठीक है, ये forecast जो है RBI inflation forecast is for 1 year ahead. For example, it was made in 2016. ठीक है, date of forecast for 2014 made for 2016. 2015-16 के लिए हुआ था, 14-15 में made. Inflation forecast was around 6% and actual inflation was 5.7%. Similarly, in these areas also you can see in March 2019 and all these times the inflation forecast has been higher. That is, the SBI was always cautious about making a lower inflation forecast that might have pushed the inflation higher, in the sense कि when a lower inflation forecast is made, people are going to invest highly. मतलब people are going to buy a lot of products because उनको लगेगा कि inflation कम होने वाला. So to control that, the RBI has been making a very conservative predictions about inflation. Okay. In recent years, inflation has largely been under control, and moreover, you can see this is MPC era, Monetary Policy Committee. Okay, this represents core inflation and inflation. Okay, you can see that after January 2014, inflation level has been consistently low, whether in MPC era or without MPC era. So this also raises a question whether MPC has been effective or not. Okay. So this was a kind of analysis we did for Monetary Policy Committee and its recommendations. Now we are going to check the effectiveness, but the government now has what the government has done. The government has extended the Monetary Policy Committee whole framework to 2026. Okay. Now what are the issues with inflation targeting? First one is failure of monetary policy transmission. Monetary policy transmission का failure क्यों हो रहा है? This needs a introspection. Now what is monetary policy transmission? Okay, why the monetary policy transmission has been failing? Monetary transmission, okay, monetary policy transmission failure. We are going to discuss this in a bit of detail. Okay, तो monetary policy transmission failure means simple है कि RBI अपने rates तो repo rates को तो increase कर रहा है, but is it affecting the rates of inflation or the rate of interest that banks are charging? If this increase of repo rate, if this decrease of repo rate is not changing the bank's rate, the rate at which banks are charging, or the inflation, then the monetary transmission has failed. ठीक है, that means there has जो monetary policy का transmission है from RBI to SBI has failed. Okay. अगर रेपो रेट इंक्रीज करने से बैंक्स अपना रेट्स मतलब इन सिंक्रोनिज्म इंक्रीज कर रहे हैं, या रेपो रेट डिक्रीज करने से बैंक्स अपना रेट डिक्रीज कर रहे हैं साइमल्टेनियसली, या रेपो रेट इंक्रीज करने से इन्फ्लेशन कंट्रोल में आ जा रहा है, या रेपो रेट डिक्रीज करने से इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ रहा है, तो इन दैट केस वी कैन से दैट मॉनेटरी ट्रांसमिशन पॉलिसी हैज सक्सीडेड. बट इफ contrary to that happens, then the monetary policy tool has not been able to produce desired outputs, and that is called monetary policy transmission failure. Monetary transmission, now you have understood this, you can clearly say that what can be the reasons of monetary transmission policy failure. Okay. The first one is RBI, okay, and for example commercial banks or SBI. The first one is RBI and SBI की bench rate जो interest rates हैं उसके बीच में कोई synchronism नहीं है. Okay, that means if RBI's and SBI in interest rate are not in synchronism. Okay, for example SBI का जो lending rate है, lending rate for example पहले RBI यूज करता था बैंक रेट. Okay, bank rate was the policy for inflation control. Now RBI uses repo rate, repurchase obligation, repo rate. Bank rate was simple, bank rate RBI decide कर देता था. SBI would have to, bank rate was defined as that rate of interest below which a commercial bank cannot lend. That rate of interest below which a commercial bank cannot lend to the most trust credit worthy customer. ठीक है, most credit worthy customer. ठीक है, तो इन उस केस में बैंक्स करते क्या थे कि ये लोग अपने मोस्ट क्रेडिट वर्दी कस्टमर के लिए 7% का इंटरेस्ट रेट रख लेते हैं. ठीक है, मतलब जो हमारा मोस्ट क्रेडिट वर्दी कस्टमर, now most credit worthy customer will be having a very better financial situation. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल SBI का मोस्ट क्रेडिट वर्दी कस्टमर अंबानी. ओके, तो अंबानी जी का तो बहुत अच्छा फाइनेंशियल सिचुएशन है, ही कैन टेक लोन्स. इनके लिए बैंक रेट के हिसाब से सेट कर लिया. बैंक रेट अगर आरबीआई ने डिसाइड किया तो एसबीआई ने इंटरनली असेसमेंट करके रिस्क बैंक रेट प्लस कुछ रिस्क डाल के, रिस्क फैक्टर एकोमोडेट करके 7% का इंटरेस्ट रेट डिसाइड कर लिया. बिकॉज अंबानी वॉज द मोस्ट ट्रस्ट वर्दी कस्टमर ऑफ एसबीआई. वॉट हैपेंड वॉज फॉर अदर कस्टमर्स दे पुट 10%. ओके, बिकॉज बैंक रेट की डेफिनेशन में ही प्रॉब्लम थी. बैंक रेट वॉज दैट रेट बिलो विच a government cannot lend to the most trustworthy customer, but this was the actual interest rate. तो यहाँ पे मॉनेटरी ट्रांसमिशन फेलियर है. फिर बैंक रेट को कैंसिल करके नाउ आरबीआई यूजेस मार्जिनल कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड बेस्ड और लेंडिंग रेट. नाउ देयर इज अ फॉर्मूला. उस फॉर्मूले के बेसिस पे आरबीआई और एसबीआई अपनी इंटरेस्ट रेट्स डिसाइड करते हैं. Now, what is marginal cost of fund-based lending rate? Marginal cost of raising 1 rupee in the market is called marginal cost of fund-based lending rate. मतलब to raise 1 rupee, ठीक है, तो to raise for, अब SBI अपना इंटरेस्ट रेट कैसे डिसाइड करेगा, जो लेंडिंग रेट है कैसे डिसाइड करेगा, दैट विल बी बेस्ड ऑन मार्जिनल कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड बेस्ड लेंडिंग रेट. दैट इज 1 रुपी रेज करने के लिए मार्केट में, 1 रुपी रेज करने के लिए मार्केट में एसबीआई का कॉस्ट कितना आता है, दैट उस कॉस्ट पे. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल 30 पैसे का कॉस्ट आता है, तो इस कॉस्ट पे रिस्क असेसमेंट जोड़ के, है ना, फिर रिटर्न्स जोड़ के, और ये सारा एक फॉर्मूला प्रोवाइड कर दिया आरबीआई ने. इस फॉर्मूले के बेसिस पे आपको मॉनेटरी अपना लेंडिंग रेट डिसाइड करना. यू कैन नॉट मेक इट आर्बिट्रेरी. ओके, एंड दिस वाज फॉर एवरीवन, नॉट ओनली फॉर द मोस्ट ट्रस्टवर्दी कस्टमर बट फॉर एवरीवन. तो मार्जिनल कॉस्ट ऑफ फर्स्ट MCLR इज मोर बेटर देन बैंक रेट. ओके, बट स्टिल द आरबीआई फेल्स टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट these SBI and all these banks have their own commercial interests as well. Okay, of course they are serving the interest of nation by controlling the inflation, but control of inflation is not on the sole purpose of a bank. Okay, the purpose of bank is maximization of profit and increase of credit, increase of its assets. Okay, so that is why failure of monetary policy transmission has taken place. Now, RBI's policy tools are not enough to control all inflation, such as inflation due to supply chain disruptions. For example, in COVID situation, okay, food inflation was very high, despite the fact that Monetary Policy Committee was there in existence and all the policy transmission rates were announced. Okay, but still food inflation was high because that was beyond the control of the lending rate of the government. It was because of the supply chain disruptions. That is an external factor to the bank's lending rate. Okay? That is not being controlled by bank's lending rate. Inflation has a global nature also. For example, if there was a drone attack on the Saudi Aramco, the company of Saudi Arabia, the biggest company of Saudi Arabia that produces crude oil, there was a drone attack allegedly supposed from Iran, due to which Saudi Arabia limited its production and the price of the crude oil increased throughout the world. And that was a global phenomena. ठीक है? That was beyond our own control. इंडिया के कंट्रोल के बाहर चीज थी वो, जिसकी वजह से हमारा इन्फ्लेशन भी हाई हुआ बिकॉज ऑफ द शॉर्टेज ऑफ द क्रूड ऑयल. तो टारगेटिंग ऑफ हेडलाइन इन्फ्लेशन rather than core inflation. Now this is a very important thing that RBI has chosen headline cost price inflation, headline CPI. ठीक है? Now what is headline CPI? Headline CPI में core inflation and food inflation दोनों included है. ठीक है? Headline, this is also headline. तो हेडलाइन में कोर इन्फ्लेशन एंड फूड इन्फ्लेशन, फूड इन्फ्लेशन एंड कोर इन्फ्लेशन. कोर इन्फ्लेशन में मोस्ट ऑफ द गुड्स आर लाइक कंज्यूमर गुड्स, है ना, और ड्यूरेबल्स लाइक ट्रैक्टर एंड ऑल, कार्स एंड ऑल, एंड अदर थिंग्स. एंड फूड इन्फ्लेशन इज द of course the inflation related to the food supplies. Now food inflation is very volatile. ठीक है? Very smaller changes in the market or the monsoon or the production or the supply chains can affect the food supply, due to which the food inflation can alter in a very smaller amount of time. Whereas core inflation is relatively stable and it determines the relative the kind of inflation that we are facing is mainly due to core inflation. But major portion of fluctuation is due to food inflation. So food inflation is very volatile. So government is targeting both. है ना? In that case, the target of inflation might not be very stable or might not be from the very like in a very it might not be a very rational thing to assume food inflation for inflation targeting, because it is a very volatile kind of inflation and it changes in days, not in months also. Moreover, the CPI basket is not truly representative of all the goods that we are consuming. ठीक है? Consumer price inflation is also not the true representative. Okay, उससे better representative GDP deflator है, and this can become a prelims question. This fifth point is very important. Okay, these are the issues with monetary policy transmission, but the government has now extended the monetary policy committee framework to 2026. Fourth point at hand is NISAR satellite. You can see this very beautiful satellite. It is being developed by India and NASA. ठीक है? NASA ISRO SAR Synthetic Aperture Radar Satellite. NISAR का full form क्या है? NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar Satellite. Okay. Now what is this satellite? Whenever we are called to talk about a satellite image, okay, whenever you are called to talk about a satellite image, we usually predict or think about this portion, the right section of the image. ठीक है? The right portion of the image is from an optical satellite or the usual satellite that we use, for example Google Earth. The left portion of this image is taken from SAR. ठीक है? Synthetic Aperture Radar kind of imaging या mapping. So you can see that in both the sections, this one is more illuminated and this one is more detailed. This is lossy and noisy. So this is the difference between optical and SAR. Okay. तो the first thing आपको यहीं से पता चल जानी चाहिए कि SAR is a relatively better technology for mapping or imaging as compared to optical या satellite based data. ठीक है? तो India and NASA both are collaborating. India ने 760 crore rupees खर्च किए हैं, NASA 5000 crore rupees का राउंड खर्च कर रहा है इस सैटेलाइट पे. It is one of the most costliest mission. It will be launched from India in 2022 it will be launched from India, but it is mostly being developed in USA, where Jet Propulsion Laboratory in NASA. Okay, so we are reading this because इंडिया का जो इसमें काम था, दो टाइप का काम है इंडिया का इस पूरे मिशन में. द फर्स्ट वन इज लॉन्च एंड द सेकंड वन इज डेवलपमेंट ऑफ SAR, सिंथेटिक S बैंड SAR एंटेना. ओके, तो ये जो SAR टेक्नोलॉजी है उसको डेवलप करना, S बैंड SAR टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलप करना इंडिया का काम था. इंडिया डेवलप्ड इट और 19th of March को इंडिया ने शिप भी कर दिया है उसे, एंड नासा रिसीव्ड इट ऑल्सो. Why news? Because JPL received a key piece of equipment, the S band SAR, from its partner in India. Its partner in India is ISRO, of course. ISRO developed this S band SAR. SAR means synthetic aperture radar. Now what is radar? Radar basically works on the phenomena of radio waves. ठीक है, तो आप यहाँ पे एक डिफरेंस ऑब्जर्व कर पा रहे हैं कि दिस इमेजिंग टेक्नोलॉजी इज बेस्ड ऑन नॉट ऑन द लाइट वेव. ठीक है, यहाँ पे कोई फोटोग्राफिक फेनोमेना जो इज नॉट अकरिंग, इट इज रादर बेस्ड ऑन द रेडियो वेव्स. ठीक है, निसार विल बी लॉन्च्ड इन 2022 फ्रॉम सतीश धवन स्पेस सेंटर, श्रीहरिकोटा. It will scan the globe every 12 days over the course of its 3-year mission. ठीक है. Now what is SAR? Synthetic aperture radar. Unlike the conventional satellite images which are taken, as I told, it is based on radio wave mapping, basically on radar technology. Radar technology मतलब radio waves. Okay. And these radio waves will be used to map the topography. ठीक है, radio waves का basic phenomena है कि they are transmitted and they return back to the person who transmitted, the device which transmitted that radio wave calculates the time of return, है ना, and then he predicts कि what kind of मतलब ये बहुत scientific हो गया, he predicts what kind of image is there. ठीक है, so this imaging technology is based on radio waves. Okay, and since it is based on radio waves, it can work during nights and clouds as well. But the satellite or the optical satellites, the cameras that we use, they cannot penetrate clouds, but radio waves can directly penetrate clouds. ठीक है, high resolution as compared to the optical images. This page is very important. Now this is how this whole imaging process is going to take place. Okay. You can see that this transmitter is transmitting a radio wave, and this transmission is taking place in 2 dimensions. The first one is along this and the second one is along this. Okay, the first one is along this, the second one is along the transmission. Along the transmission means along the direction of the movement of the satellite, and the other one is transverse. Okay, so this is kind of imaging that is going to take place. Okay. Now it can, how is it going to help? What are the uses? This is the satellite. It will just measure any kind of very small kind of change, even change to the 2 inches. It can measure the change of up to 2 inches by using what? पहले ये लैंड यहाँ पे थी, now ये लैंड खिसक के नीचे चली गई. तो जो पहले का जो रेडियो वेव था उसका वेवलेंथ ये था, वेवलेंथ सेम रहेगा, फेज डिफरेंस चेंज हो जाएगा, और उस फेज डिफरेंस के चेंज को मेजर करके सैटेलाइट विल टेल कि व्हाट काइंड ऑफ चेंज हैज टेकन प्लेस. ठीक है, एम ऑफ निसार इज ट्रेसिंग ऑफ आइड शीट मेल्टिंग रेट. ओके, मॉनिटरिंग ऑफ ग्राउंड वाटर सप्लाईज, मॉनिटरिंग ऑफ वोल्केनिक एंड अदर नेचुरल चेंजेस, चेंज इन फॉरेस्ट कवर एंड लैंड यूज. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. फॉरेस्ट कवर और लैंड यूज पैटर्न को, चेंजेस को भी ऑब्जर्व करने में निसार विल हेल्प. Okay. Now National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. This was announced in the budget. Okay, I took the lecture of budget and you can go through the budget lecture as well. And this was announced in the budget of 2021 कि एक development financial institution will be made for the financing of infrastructure in the country. ठीक है. This budget has allocated the highest amount of budgetary allocations to the infrastructure. Okay, and to meet the other needs of the infrastructure financing, this bank is going to be set up. This is not a conventional bank in the sense that it does not take deposits. Okay, what it does not take deposit from common people. It is not a retail bank. Rather, it raises money and it invests in infrastructure projects and it also earns from them. तो यहाँ पे दो चीजें कर रहा है ये बैंक. It raises money, that is it works in financial sector development, and the second one is it invests in infrastructure, that is in infrastructure. मतलब इस बैंक के दो काम होंगे. The first one is development of financial markets, the second one is development of infrastructure. Now we are going to take up the bill. What is NBFID? The first one is development. It is a development financial institution, nothing more. There's no rocket science. Simple. It will be raising capital for infrastructure, lower rates. अब lower rates पे क्यों? Because it is backed by the government itself. Government securities का rate of interest low होता है. क्यों? क्योंकि they are government, they are gilt edged. The rate of default in a government security is very low. Okay, so the risk coverage is low. Okay, that is the risk associated with the government security is low because governments rarely default except in case of Greece. Yes, Greece की government ने बहुत तगड़ा default किया था. But since it is being backed by the government, the interest rate on the loan that it might raise will be low. ठीक है, because interest rates reflect the kind of risk that the lender is taking. It does not take deposits. It does not only provide financial help to the infrastructure sector, but also technical support. ठीक है, technical support in the sense in preparation of detailed project reports. Okay, in preparation of consultancy services. ठीक है, has lower rate of interest because government backing. ठीक है, these are the features of a development financial institution. So this is not for the first time that government is going to implement make a development financial institution. There are already many kind of development financial institutions present in India. One of them is SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. It is very similar to NBFID. ठीक है, तो जो SIDBI का काम है वो स्मॉल इंडस्ट्रीज के डेवलपमेंट के लिए है. ठीक है, इट ऑल्सो रीफाइनेंसेस दीज बैंक्स जो कि स्मॉल इंडस्ट्रीज के फाइनेंसिंग में लगे हुए हैं. Similarly, NBFID will also refinance those banks which are already in the sector of infrastructure financing. Now, there's some kind of development financing institutions I have mentioned here. The first one is national development banks. अब हर एक का एक एग्जांपल अगर हम देखते चले तो इसका होगा SIDBI. ठीक है, first I explained what are the traits or what are the characteristics of a development financial institutions. Now I am taking examples कि what kind of development financial institutions are already there. ठीक, the first one is National Development Bank, that is maintained by SIDBI. National Development Bank, an example is SIDBI. The second is Sector Specific Bank, IDBI. या ICICI. Industrial Development Bank of India. This is Small Industries Development Bank. This is Industries Development Bank. It is sector specific. Okay. Investment institutions. अब investment institutions में क्या होता है? LIC. What LIC does? LIC के पास huge corpus of money है. वो क्या करता है? वो बहुत सारे projects में invest करता है. And then it earns from those projects. Not only it invests in projects of infrastructure, it also invests in financial markets. And then it gets return on that. And then ये अपने जो policy holders हैं उनको returns देता है. LIC, pension funds as well. Now pension funds are also having huge corpus of money with them. ठीक है, तो pension funds LIC are called investment institutions. And state finance corporation. State finance corporation मतलब हर state का अपना financial corporation जो भी है, जो कि industries financial corporation और ये सारे examples. Okay, तो ये हो गया कि development financial institutions basically है क्या? What is NBFID? NBFID is a development financial institution. Okay. Now we are going to study about the structure and the bill that particularly talks about the establishment of NBFID. The first one is authorized share capital of rupees 1 lakh crore rupees. Share capital. Authorized share capital. Now what is the share capital? शेयर कैपिटल मतलब पूरा इस पूरे NBFID का वैल्यूएशन टोटल, इन द सेंस दैट कि इसकी पूरी अगर शेयर होल्डिंग सबके बीच में बांट दी जाए, है ना, तो टोटल वैल्यूएशन इसका 1 लाख करोड़ रुपीज आएगा. Now central government will have 100% share initially, that is in the very starting only it is not going to become 1 lakh crore rupees bank. Okay, in the starting it will start from a smaller value and then it will gradually transform into a 1 lakh crore share capital bank. Fine. So in the central government will have 100% shareholding in the initial. ठीक है, जितना भी शेयर इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगी वो सारा गवर्नमेंट करेगी. ओके, एंड इट विल बी रिड्यूस सब्सिक्वेंटली टू 26%. ठीक है, इट विल बी गवर्नमेंट का शेयर होल्डिंग बाद में कहां तक रिड्यूस कर दिया जाएगा, 26% तक. बाकी द मल्टीलैटरल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, ओके, इसकी शेयर होल्डिंग विल बी गिवन टू अदर पीपल. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मल्टीलैटरल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, पेंशन फंड्स, LIC, कॉर्पोरेट्स. ओके, तो इन सारे लोगों को इसकी शेयर होल्डिंग बांट दी जाएगी. ओके, नाउ the ownership will be transferred to multilateral institutions. What are multilateral institutions? For example, ADB, Asian Development Bank, or NDB, New Development Bank, ठीक है, और World Bank. It is also a multilateral institution. Sovereign funds जो कंपनीज के अपने वेल्थ फंड्स होते हैं, कंट्रीज के अपने वेल्थ फंड्स होते हैं. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल दुबई इज हैविंग अ वेरी ह्यूज सॉवरिन वेल्थ फंड एंड दे आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स ऑल अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. तो सॉवरिन वेल्थ फंड्स भी इसमें अपनी शेयर होल्डिंग ले सकते हैं, पेंशन फंड्स भी ले सकते हैं, इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक्स लाइक गोल्डमैन सैक्स, एंड कॉर्पोरेट इन्वेस्टर्स कैन आल्सो टेक द शेयर होल्डिंग ऑफ द NBFID. But initially all the shareholding will be with government. It will be allowed, NBFID will be allowed to raise capital both within the country and outside in the country. ठीक है, and both in Indian rupees and in the foreign currency. ठीक है, इंडिया का फॉरेन डेट जो है, सॉवरेन डेट जो कहते हैं, ठीक है, वो बहुत कम है. तो इंडिया के पास काफी लेवरेज है टू टेक एक्सटर्नल लोन्स या एक्सटर्नल कमर्शियल बोरोइंग्स. ठीक है, तो इट इज ऑथराइज्ड टू रेज लोन इन बोथ रूपी डिनोमिनेटेड लोन्स एंड बोथ जो फॉरेन करेंसी डिनोमिनेटेड लोन्स हैं वो भी. करेंटली इंडिया के पास फॉरेन करेंसी डिनोमिनेटेड लोन्स में डॉलर डिनोमिनेटेड लोन्स हाईएस्ट हैं, फिर येन है, फिर SDR. प्लीज रिमेंबर दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर प्रीलिम्स. Now what is the structure of organization? The first one is chairperson appointed by central government in consultation with the RBI. Second is there are up to 3 managing directors again appointed by central government in consultation with RBI. Okay, 2 directors nominated by the central government. Okay, up to 3 directors elected by the shareholders. Up to 3 directors elected by the shareholders. अभी तो पूरी shareholding government के पास है, तो this will also be done by the government. But when the shareholding is being transmitted or transferred to other entities like multilateral banks, multilateral institutions, investment banks, corporates, तो उन सारे शेयर होल्डर्स का भी एक 3 डायरेक्टर्स होंगे जो कि वो अपने में से इलेक्ट करेंगे. एंड इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर्स एज स्पेसिफाइड. इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर्स जो कि इस बोर्ड के मेंबर नहीं होंगे, बट दे विल बी इंडिपेंडेंट, दे विल बी आउट फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड. ओके, now support rupees 5,000 crore to the NBFID by the end of this financial year, that is by the end of 2021. Rupees 5,000 crore will be given to it by the central government, and the central government will guarantee when NBFID is going to raise money in the international market. Okay, so central government will guarantee its loan. Because when you are going to raise a loan, तो आपको इंटरेस्ट क्या चार्ज किया जाएगा, दैट डिपेंड्स अपॉन योर क्रेडिट वर्दीनेस, कि आपका क्रेडिट वर्दीनेस कितना है. अगर आपको गवर्नमेंट बैकिंग कर रही है तो आपका क्रेडिट वर्दीनेस वेरी हाई है, तो दैट इज आपका जो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट होगा वैसे भी कम हो जाएगा. बट व्हेन हियर इट इज सेइंग दैट कि गारंटी अ कंसेशनल रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट अप टू 0.1% फॉर बोरोइंग फ्रॉम मल्टीलैटरल. जो मल्टीलैटरल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं लाइक ADB, एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक या वर्ल्ड बैंक, अगर NBFID इन लोगों से बोरो करती है तो 0.1% तक का इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन गवर्नमेंट देगी. अब 0.1% फिर साउंड वेरी लो, वेरी स्मॉल, But if this NBFID is going to borrow to 5,000 crore rupees from, for example, World Bank, then उसका 0.1% very high होगा. Can guarantee the bond, debt and other financial instruments. Okay, NBFID can also raise money by issuing bonds and debts. ठीक है. And costs toward insulation. When, for example, when this is NBFID is going to borrow in the international market, then the loans that it borrows are subject to the fluctuation of interest exchange rates. है ना? For example, if the NBFID borrowed 100 crore loan in dollars, okay, 100 crore dollar का लोन अगर कंपनी ने इसने लिया है, तो it will have to pay certain kind of interest on that. अब वो इंटरेस्ट डिपेंड करेगा इनकी एक्सचेंज रेट का फ्लक्चुएशन कैसे हो रहा है ना. इफ द रुपी डिप्रिशिएट्स तो हमें ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट देना पड़ेगा, इफ रुपी अप्रिशिएट्स तो हमें कम इंटरेस्ट देना पड़ेगा. इन दैट केस गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग टू गारंटी दैट ऑल जो फ्लक्चुएशन होगा, है ना, क्योंकि फिक्स रेट पे तो होगा नहीं कि अगर 3% या 2% भी इंटरेस्ट रेट है, दैट विल बी 2% विल बी इन, अगर डॉलर डिनोमिनेटेड लोन है तो that 2% will be in dollar denominations, and dollar denominations will be, but from India if you going to pay it back तो किस में होगा, रुपी को कन्वर्ट कराना पड़ेगा डॉलर में. एंड देन अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट जो कि जब एक्सचेंज रेट जब लोन लिया था अगर उससे एक्सचेंज रेट डेप्रिशिएट कर गई है तो हमें ज्यादा पैसे देने पड़ेंगे. तो NBFID को प्रिवेंट करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट सिक्योर करेगी कि गवर्नमेंट विल पे, अगर फ्लक्चुएशन इन एक्सचेंज रेट में फ्लक्चुएशंस की वजह से एक्सचेंज इंटरेस्ट रेट ज्यादा देना पड़ रहा है NBFID को, तो गवर्नमेंट विल मेक श्योर कि गवर्नमेंट पेज फॉर द फ्लक्चुएशन. ओके, नाउ दिस इज काइंड ऑफ दिस इज अ वेरी बेसिक थिंग आई वांटेड टू एक्सप्लेन कि हाउ दिस NBFID इज गोइंग टू रेज मनी फॉर इटसेल्फ, है ना, क्योंकि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दिस इज NBFID, this is for example ADB, and this is market. First of all, this is government. Government will provide some funding, for example rupees 5,000 crore. Okay, and when this NBFID is going to take loan from ADB, okay, so government will subsidize that loan up to 0.1% of the interest rate that this bank is charging on NBFID. Second one is the second way of raising money is when NBFID, अब NBFID क्या करेगा, बॉन्ड छाप के मार्केट में बेच देगा. ठीक है, कि मैं 500 करोड़ रुपए के बॉन्ड छाप रहा हूं. अब बॉन्ड, व्हाट इज अ बॉन्ड? बॉन्ड इज अ डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट. ओके, बॉन्ड इज अ डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट. Bond is a debt instrument. Bond is nothing but a promissory note, you can say. For example, rupees 100 का अगर bond है, ठीक है, तो it will pay a monthly interest of 10%. ठीक है. Now that interest is charged upon the face value. This is face value, and this is interest rate. 10% is too high. For example, okay, 10% is the interest rate. ठीक है. 10%, 10%, 10%. Okay, that means अगर ये बॉन्ड है, इस पे लिखा हुआ है इसकी फेस वैल्यू 100 है और 4 साल इसका मैच्योरेशन टाइम है, और हर साल के एंड में ये 10% इंटरेस्ट पे करता है बॉन्ड. ओके, एंड इफ आई गिव दिस बॉन्ड टू समवन, दैट पर्सन विल गिव मी 100 रुपीज, एंड आफ्टर 4 years I will give the 100 rupees back to the person, and during 4 years at the end of every year I will be giving him 10% of rupees 100. This is the phenomenon of bond. ठीक है, तो बेसिकली क्या हुआ कि मैंने बॉन्ड से लोन लिया किसी और से, एंड आफ्टर 4 years I will be paying him the principal value of the bond, that is rupees 100, and along with the interest, that is 10% of rupees 100. Every year, at the end of every year I will be paying him rupees 10 as the form of interest. Okay, now अगर यही बॉन्ड छाप के 500 करोड़ रुपए के NBFID मार्केट में लॉन्च कर देता है, तो in that case also the government is going to help it for raising money. ठीक है, so this is the way the NBFID is going to raise money. Okay. Now there are exemptions from investigation, so that there was a committee on banking reforms, and it recommended that the 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 board or the people who are in the public sector banks should be isolated from the investigation that might take place when the board members or the directors of the banks are taking economic decisions. Okay, मतलब अगर किसी बैंक का जो डायरेक्टर है वो कोई इकोनॉमिक डिसीजन ले रहा है एंड इफ इट टर्न्स आउट टू बी अ बैड डिसीजन, ही शुड नॉट बी प्रोसिक्यूटेड फॉर दैट इकोनॉमिक डिसीजन. या फाइनेंशियल डिसीजन या इकोनॉमिक डिसीजन अगर कोई बैंक का डायरेक्टर ले रहा है तो ही शुड बी गिवन freedom of making choice and he should not be prosecuted if that decision turns out to be bad. Similarly, to provide such kind of exemption from investigation, no investigation can be initiated against any employee of an employee of NBFID, this bank. If that employee is a chairperson, तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का प्रायर सैंक्शन चाहिए होगा. एंड अगर वो कोई और पर्सन है, ठीक है, तो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर का. तो डायरेक्टर्स और चेयरपर्सन के लिए सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का और किसी और के लिए मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर का एक सैंक्शन चाहिए होगा, प्रायर सैंक्शन चाहिए होगा टू कंडक्ट एन इन्वेस्टिगेशन इनटू केसेस ऑफ करप्शन और एनी सच थिंग्स. Even courts are debarred from taking cognizance of any offences under this bank without the prior sanction of the central government. That is, the government has tried to insulate it and make it on at par with the corporate banks, है ना, so that the directors and the chairperson can be able to take freely such economic and financial decisions which are better for the governance or better for the development of this bank. Okay. Functions: extending loans and advances for infrastructure projects. The first and very most important function is taking over of refinancing such existing loans. Refinancing, okay, refinancing मतलब अगर कोई existing loan है उसको refinance करना restructure करके, ठीक है. Attracting investment from private sector investors. Okay, investment from private sector investor कैसे कर सकते हैं कि अगर private sector इस बैंक में शेयर होल्डिंग ले ले, then that private sector will also benefit from the investment that NBFID is going to do in infrastructure projects or financial market. So that will help attract investors to invest in NBFID. Organizing and facilitating foreign participation because it can raise funds in the foreign markets also. Facilitating negotiations with various government authorities because it will be a very comprehensive body in dealing with finances and technical matters as well. Providing consultancy services in infrastructure finance. It will also provide technical and consultancy services to the companies or the infrastructure projects that are being taken place. ठीक है. Okay, that is the end of the lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any queries, please comment in the comment section. I shall be more than happy to answer them. Thank you. Last slide पे रुक गया. हाँ.